Hey, everybody. This is Nevin Gusak, your host of the Populist Patriot. Let me just get my water. Hold on. Forgot one of my important things that I need to. Sorry about that, everyone. I'm Nevin Gusak, your host of the Populist Patriot. And I want to talk about in this live stream. I got some good, some thought-provoking comments. I mean, on my DeSantis video, where I alleged or argued, based on an Axios Tampa Bay story, that DeSantis is a fake populist, a fake man of the people. That in reality, many of his policies do not favor working or low income or even middle income Floridians in any meaningful way. Hey, 20th Century Longest, how you doing? Thanks for joining me. I wanted to read through these comments, and I appreciate many of the comments that were made. Just because you don't agree with me or may not like some of the things that I say, but hey, at least you're listening, and I appreciate you listening. And as long as you comment in a civil way, I'm cool with disagreement. It's fine. So I'm not going to take down your comments. Now, there are comments I will take down that are like dumb or useless or don't or insulting, or they don't really further any discussion. And I'm going to read one comment that I did take down from somebody with the YouTube channel name of Happy Go Lucky. I don't know why he calls himself Happy Go Lucky, because he really doesn't sound like a happy go lucky kind of guy. In fact, he was rather butthurt by the video that I made about DeSantis. He's like, no one can ever make you happy. What kind of miserable life would that be, to be always a whiner and complainer? Okay, well, if the pot is calling the kettle black, Mr. Happy Go Lucky, sounds like you're a bitter whiner and complainer of you, because obviously you were too thin-skinned, because I poked holes in the idea that your hero, Ron DeSantis, Governor Ron DeSantis, is the best thing since sliced bread, and you got butthurt. And you know something? I will be a whiner and complainer as long as our country, the United States of America, is in a state of decline, where more and more people can't have families. They can't afford the basic necessities of life. When the domestic extremists of the left, and also neo-Nazi and fascists, particularly of the extreme left, are growing in power, when Russia and China are surpassing us militarily and subverting our nation, when you have extreme class divisions in this country, when the country is on fire and it's going into a slow decline. And yes, we have to hold our leaders responsible, our economic and political leaders and media elites responsible. And we need to address the structural imbalances, that clearly exist in the United States, that shouldn't have to be. So I hold the people accountable. Now, people like Happy Go Lucky, I'm sure that he probably want to shit all over people with no power, but on this channel, I want to shit all over and call into question and really grill the people that have power. The people that have power that by and large do not further the interests of the United States of America and the vast popular masses of people of all classes, races, religious backgrounds, etc. Now, no one can ever make you happy. Well, I guess you haven't listened carefully to my videos, Mr. So-called happy-go-lucky, who doesn't sound like a happy-go-lucky person. Sounds like some embittered jerk, if you want to know the truth. And to be honest with you, there are people that historically have made me happy, that I draw upon their viewpoints. People like the late Congressman Walter Jones of North Carolina, Republican congressman, old school conservative, critical of Citizens United and big money in speech, critical of the so-called tax cuts that have increased the deficit, critical of free trade with our trade rivals, as well as our enemies like Communist China and Putin KGB Russia. Or how about, there are aspects of Senator Jesse Helms that I really like. The fact that he was a consistent anti-communist and was against the engagement of enemies of the United States like Communist China or Ba'athist Iraq. Or how about, individuals like aspects of Dwight Eisenhower with his mass infrastructure building programs and his contributions to the 1956 Republican platform, which called for assured but earned prosperity, strong unions, rises in wages, increases in Social Security. How about aspects of FDR, whose New Deal, or aspects of the New Deal which he created, which helped stave off a fascist or communist takeover in the United States? Or how about George Washington, when we take a look at his farewell address, a real nationalist message of quite a bit of wisdom, especially about entangling alliances and the political parochialism he warned against regarding factionalism, which of course we see in our political party system. Or how about Abraham Lincoln and the other adherents of the American School of Political Economy? How about that? How about, and I don't know, maybe you never heard about the American School of Political Economy because you probably watch Fox News, which all they give you is all this, trickle-down economic nonsense that's anti-populist, by the way, and is anti-nationalist. Or how about individuals like Teddy Roosevelt, who was an opponent of Bolshevism as well as unrestrained corporate capitalism, and who was a nationalist and who was a Chad man, a man's man, got shot and still was making a speech. A man who overcome his health problems and dealt with them by exercise and fitness and everything else. So yeah, those are the people that make me happy. And there are more people that make me happy too as well. They're just not on the national scene at this point. So happy-go-lucky, you're not happy-go-lucky. I could tell right now in your comments you don't, okay? And no, I'm not a whiner and a complainer. I am a concerned American who is passionate about what's going on in this country and the way the country is headed. And I'm calling out the political and economic elites. So I muted and I deleted your comment, okay? Because comments like that are totally useless. But I've encountered people like you before, and I've been part of other organizations, and I had to hold my tongue. But people like you, happy-go-lucky, I ain't holding my tongue. You're going to get a tongue lashing. So, okay, so we got a couple of other comments here. Yeah, so let's see what else we got here. I'm going to look at my phone now because it's kind of hard doing this on the computer here. So let's go here. Hold on. Sorry about that. Okay. N310EA, thank you for listening and commenting. Again, a comment, he doesn't agree with my point of view. That's cool. You would think Ron DeSantis wouldn't have so much support from the public that he does now if he was such a bad person. And I get your point, and thank you for listening. Florida has a highly mobilized conservative base. They are, and I was a conservative one time, and a free market Reagan type conservative, and later became a John Bircher, and then eventually became a populist and civic nationalist. And they listen to, their Rush Limbaugh, who's now deceased, or Mark Levin or whatever, and they're giving their particular line of thought. And they're mobilized in the Fox News and everything else. And they're mobilized, and they're going to vote en masse to DeSantis. He galvanizes the conservative base, and they tend to vote, even in off-season elections. But I think there are a lot of people, if you had the right candidate, either Democrat or Republican, they would be a true populist, that would declare a truce in the war of social issues and focuses on economics and wraps it up in a patriotic American flag and Americana point of view. I think people like Ron DeSantis would be beat. I think if the Democratic Party would run people in the major rural areas that are, they're critical of abortion, they tend to be somewhat pro-traditional values, but yet be economic populists, I think they'll beat the Democrats. The fact Kevin Phillips talked about in one of his books. I think it was Boiling Point, if I recall correctly, or one of his books, I think from the early 90s. And he talked about and documented how the Reagan Republicans during the 1980s, Lee Atwaters and others, they talked about it in memos, and they talked about how on economics they could never win, but they needed to, with the populist blue collar vote, but they co-opted the traditional values message and combined it with trickle-down economics and their globalism, and that's how they were able to win against the Democrats. And the Democrats, over the years, over the decades, have become a feckless party. They've abandoned their New Deal populism, pro-American platform. So, yeah, I mean, DeSantis. I think if we were to take DeSantis issue by issue by issue, particularly on economics, I think the vast majority of Floridians would support economic populism within a framework of a form of capitalism. So yeah, I think DeSantis gets his support only because he knows how to throw red meat to the conservative base. The conservative base, the Reagan conservative base, is very mobilized. They're very passionate. They go out to the polls and they vote. I know. I used to work on conservative campaigns, like for Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. So I know that. So anyways, but I think if we went issue by issue, you look at the Florida minimum wage raise in the minimum wage not too long ago, the overwhelming majority of Floridians voted for an increase in the minimum wage. So I think if we had a true populist candidate in the upcoming gubernatorial election, I think he or she would win. Now, Ron DeSantis updates. Just because they donate to DeSantis, and thank you, by the way, for Ron DeSantis updates, and I'm going to subscribe to your channel, because I checked it out. I'll just subscribe it on my personal channel under my full name. And thank you for listening and commenting. I appreciate that. Just because they donate to DeSantis doesn't mean he's controlled by them. Laughing emoji. Just look at Disney. They had donated to him in the past. They went after parents, right? I respect your opinion, and which I really appreciate, and I respect your opinion, Ron DeSantis updates. But it's silly to say DeSantis isn't for the working class or average Americans because of who donates to him. Just look at his policies and actions. They speak louder than donations. Also, you have to remember him keeping Florida open was huge for business owners of all sizes, both small and billionaires, hence why they probably want to donate to him. By and large, his policies have been pro-parent, pro-worker, and pro-Floridian. He's an excellent governor and a rare breed among our political class. And I appreciate the thoughtful response, Ron DeSantis updates. I mean, whatever your name is. Let me just get a drink of water. And let's quickly unpack this here. With Disney, the fact of the matter is DeSantis also needs to maintain some level of support with his conservative base. And the values and priorities of the conservative base is not always synonymous with that of big multinational corporations. And I think DeSantis, that's why DeSantis went full speed ahead rhetorically on Disney, as well as withdrawing their self-administrative tax status. And as I said in my video, there are things that I agree with DeSantis on. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a politically independent-minded individual with my own unique set of beliefs. There are things I agree with him. For example, some of his increases in his wages, I think for the heroes, like the police, fire, teachers, etc. I think that's a start in the right direction. I think teaching the evils of communism, I think that's an excellent thing that the Florida legislature passed. But when it comes to DeSantis, he is overwhelmingly a pro-employer government. And just because you're a pro-employer government doesn't mean you're necessarily pro-worker. Now, my view on capitalism is different than both the extreme left as well as the sort of pro-corporate, the corporate right. Um, Both labor, investors, managers, and owners are all, and consumers are all important in a well-functioning, stable, free enterprise system. I don't believe in this notion of job creators, that it's just the wealthy elite that create jobs, and by implication, the workers should be grateful for Massa, Walton, or Massa Paul Singer, or Massa Coke, Charles Koch, or whatever. No, that's plantation, antebellum, Jim Crow economics. That's oligarchy. I don't support that. So the fact of the matter is when you look at DeSantis, he has not done anything, nor has the Florida legislature has done anything regarding the skyrocketing rents and home ownership issues that we're having here. He has not done anything regarding the wage issues, the overcrowded schools, class sizes, despite the class amendment. The classes are huge. It's one of the reasons why my daughter had to leave a very good public school in Palm Beach County, because she wasn't learning anything. Everything was just cramming everything, memorized, factory like, and everything else. How is that benefiting the people? He is just like an ordinary Jeb Bush, Rick Scott Republican. There's really no difference. There's no qualitative improvement in the lives of average Floridians. And going after woke textbooks and woke corporations is not going to do the thing. What actually will help build up families is actually investing proper investments in our public institutions and our workforce. And there are things, yes, in some ways that DeSantis is doing legislatively, but it's not enough. And yes, I might be a whiner and complainer, but this is my state. I love this state. I want to stay here until the day I die. And, and I want a better state. I just don't want to rest on my laurels and accept it. Things as the way they are. Great men and women who have changed things, irrespective of their political ideologies, they didn't rest on their laurels and say, okay, everything's fine. I don't want to rock the boat, and blah 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 blah. Owning the libs is not heroic. That's just galvanizing your base, but it's not functionally improving the day-to-day lives of the Floridians as well as American citizens. And to me, if I had DeSantis's platform, I'd be battling Goldman Sachs and BlackRock and other globalist, anti-nationalist, so-called investment houses and hedge funds and other Wall Street institutions that are screwing over American workers, homeowners, renters, and all the school privatizers that don't believe in public education, that are against smaller class sizes, the right to work crowd. Look up the origins of right to work. Origins of right to work. Look at Vance Muse, racist, anti-Semite. The only thing I agree with Vance Muse on is he was for tariffs and hated communism. That's it. Other than that, he hated unions. Why? Because blacks and whites were joining in yet another populist coalition, and he was afraid that it would overturn the oligarchic free trade Southern planter aristocracy in the 30s and 40s. That's why. Yeah, there you go. Right to work. There's your right to work. To me, if I was governor, I would use the public pulpit and have a legislature, hopefully, that I would say, look, we're done with right to work. We're going to strike that from the Florida Constitution. And what I would to see nationally is not a government that's extremely anti-business or extremely pro-labor. There needs to be a balance of interests. That's what has to happen in a complicated, complex society like modern industrialized society like us. And just a politician that's going to be owning the libs, it's just not going to cut it. I'm sorry. What about all these slave labor employers that exploit undocumented or illegal and legal visa holding immigrants? What about that? Where are the employers being jailed for that? And there are some Republicans that are speaking out, by the way, against the influence of big money and how it's making Florida a difficult place to live. Look at Luis Miguel, for example. Now, there are many issues where I disagree with him on, but other things that I agree with Luis Miguel on. And to tell you the truth, he has spoken out against these corporate influences and whatnot, and calls for actual limits on these developers on various issues. So, and I respect that. So, when it comes to keeping Florida open, well, that's the only alternative we had, because there was no meaningful monetary relief by the federal government given to the average American person. A one-time check of what was it, $1,400? Less than $2,000. That's not going to cut it for somebody who's chronically unemployed. I know people who lost jobs because of that, because of unemployment. And it was the Republicans that say, well, we can't have the welfare mentality, free market, laissez-faire. Meanwhile, an ex-girlfriend of mine got kicked out of her apartment because she lost her job and she had just a lousy crumb of a check. But meanwhile, major corporations and major wealthy people, boom, they were getting PPE loans. Mitch McConnell made sure of that, and Nancy Pelosi, Democrat, also put in all those restrictions on who would get the money and everything else. To me, federal government, I was President Trump, take to Twitter and blast all those motherfuckers. And I would say, look, each American is getting $2,000 a month in relief if you make at or under $200,000, and small businesses are going to get major benefits too, and medium-sized businesses. We're all going to benefit. 21st century longest, that sounds like corporatism, a balance and cooperation of business and labor, a ground-up moderate could work in this country. Well, yeah, I'm not a fascist, but yeah, that's what needs to happen. FDR had some of that with the National Labor Relations Board. And I've called in my book, Turning the Page, I talk about a little bit about how a National Labor Relations Board can be used to kind of have more of a cooperative relationship when there are negotiations or unfairness breaks down in union labor disputes and whatnot. And I call for the populating the National Labor Relations Boards with proven nationalist-minded businessmen and businesswomen, and also anti-communist or non-communist union members too as well. So, yeah. So anyways, we had no choice. We had to open up because our federal government was totally non-responsive, Trump as well as Joe Biden. Why was Trump non-responsive? Well, take a look at who was advising him, Larry Kudlow and Stephen Moore. I voted for Trump in the Republican primary 2015 and the general in 2016. He was talking a different game back then, and now he brings all these reactionary, Freedom Caucus people and everything. That didn't get Trump to the finish line. It didn't. The Tea Party and the Freedom Caucus, no, it was the independents. It was the 37% of the AFL-CIO voters and 12% of the Bernie voters and the independents that got him to the finish line. All the other Freedom Caucus types, libertarian types, the Reaganites, they will put all their money in all the other candidates. They put in their faith in the other candidates. That's the fact of the matter. So DeSantis, we didn't have any choice. We had to reopen. People were starving out there. People were getting thrown out of their homes. And Joe Biden, look at his voting record. Joe Biden voted to repeal Glass-Steagall, voted for the 2005 bankruptcy bills. He pushed for permanent normal trade relations with KGB-owned Russia. He pushed for PNTR, permanent normal trade relations with Red China. Come on. All these crime bills, and I'm tough on law enforcement, but in order to solve crime, what we got to do is we got to solve the issue with, with all our social problems here. So, with all the unemployment and everything else and the underpayment and the broken economy that we have. So, anyways, I saw 2 likes. Now I guess somebody unliked one of my likes, Sorry, but, sorry about that. I am who I am. If you want to comment, feel free to comment. Just keep it mature, nice, and that's it. So, Ron DeSantis updates and N310EA. Thank you for commenting. I respect both of your opinions. You're probably not going to agree with what I said, but I encourage you to listen. As long as you comment like the way you comment respectfully, you're always more than welcome to comment. But that other person, happy go lucky, yeah, you can comment if you want to comment like N310EA or Ron DeSantis updates were thoughtful. But if you want to comment like the crap that you just gave, I'm just going to delete it and delete it and delete it until I'll block you through muting. So it's all good. And yeah, New Frontier, I'm looking forward to the interview. I mean, there are going to be obviously some differences of opinion, but I know on your show you've had people of different opinions on there. I like to look for what CT refers to as authentic conversation too as well. It makes it kind of fun. You have an exchange of ideas and you get to learn what motivates people to join particular political causes and ideologies, and it's all good. So and that's pretty much it. I just wanted to say what I wanted to say about some of the reactions to my Ron DeSantis fake populist governor video, and hey, we'll go from here. Thank you all and have a great day.